right, welcome back to another show, Sports Therapy with FH Jr. Hey, on today's show, it is going to be action packed. We're gonna do a few things a little bit different today. Now, when I originally came up with the concept of sports therapy with FH Jr., I had in my mind that I would have a show where callers would get a chance to call in, rip their team, kick some knowledge, rant a little bit, and that was the format that when I came up with the concept, that was the format that I was going to follow, and I'm still planning on following that format to the T. But now we do know that basically we're in what I call dry dock. Dry dock for me means that we don't have a lot of football going on right now. We got all seasons, we got OTAs, and so but every day is football season if you are affiliated with the NFL. And so we'll probably be doing for the next couple shows. It'll probably be more. How do I say this? It'll probably be more knowledge sharing than anything. Cause I'm still gonna try to stay true to myself and not go along the realms of not getting into politics because I don't want to get into politics. I don't want to get into discussing sexual identity, anything and that, because I wanted to have this show, a show where people can go and call in, and you can kind of like, bottom line, it's going to be sports entertainment, but there are going to be some topics that we're going to touch on that, at the end of the day, you definitely have to look at it in terms of being real. And so there are going to be some topics that we will discuss. But as I say, we know that there's not a lot going on in the world of the NFL for us to rip and rant about. And let's just face it, it's not. But we know that things are going to get kicking and really get I'm sorry, really going to kick off. And when that happens, we will be there providing sports therapy. So in the meantime, we're going to talk about today's show. Today's show is going to be what I call a continuation of a previous show. Where, and once again, like I said, whenever I'm looking down, I am not falling asleep. Sometimes people try to get in touch with me on my phone, and I have to check and see if to make sure that everything is going okay. Because keep in mind, I am a one-man band. I run my board. I operate my the mic. I do all that good stuff. I edit. I do everything. So let me see. I got someone trying to text me. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, definitely so. So like I said, we're gonna be ready to kick it off. Today's show is gonna be a continuation of a previous show called "Owners Behaving Badly." Now, the original was part one, but today's gonna be part two. So we're gonna take a deep dive into owners behaving badly because we want to ask the question. Um, the question we want to ask is that we know that there are guidelines and code of conduct for the players, but does that same code of ethics and everything does it extend to the owners? Because the bottom line is that protect the shield. That's the motto. Whatever we do, we have to protect the shield. And so, with that, that's what today's show is going to be about. In fact, we're going to do things a little bit different. I do have someone that reached out to me, one of my regulars, that said, "Hey, you know what? I want to have a little bit more time if I can get it today because I want to really get into the topic of your show." And I said, "Okay, let's make it happen." And so that's where we are with that. So what we're going to talk about is I don't know. I know everybody thinks that because I wear the commander shirt and the good commander gear, that I will not rip my team. Well, you're in for another thing coming today because I'm definitely gonna take a hard look at my team, formerly known as the Washington Redskins, the football team, and our new name are the Commanders. But we're gonna look at the fact that our owner. Now, you can love your team and despise your owner. Everybody knows that. Hey, I love my team. Now, um, do I think we need do I think we need new leadership? I mean, there are a lot of fans out there that says, you know, I love my team, but I hate the owner. Cowboys always come to mind. You know, Jerry is Jerry. You know, he's Jerry. A lot of people disagree and think that, well, if the owner wasn't in the way, if the owner wasn't a slash GM, um, you know, things could be different. And I look at that in terms of my Commanders. Um, I think we could the team could do a lot better if it was under new leadership. I'm not the only one that thinks that, but regardless of whether the Commanders are owned by Daniel Snyder or not, I'm gonna always be in the pocket of the team. I'm gonna always be a fan. I mean, because I was a fan for the team before he became the owner, and I'll be one probably. I wouldn't say long after he's gone because I'm not trying to get some some. You know, I'm not leading the charge to get rid of the owner, but I just know that unless some things change, uh, you know, he's pretty much gonna get rid of himself. So it brings me back to what today's show is about. Owners behaving badly. Now, as I was saying, I don't get up out of bed and just wing this show. No, I follow a format. So we're going to take a look at a history of NFL owners behaving badly. And so and it's going to preference into what we're trying to do or the direction that I'm going with today's show. And because what I did, I was doing some research and I'm like, okay, um, what is out there? Because I have been following football, the NFL. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't just follow NFL football now. I love college football as well. But my show is preference around the NFL and the NFL season. So that's where we are with that. And being that said, that's why the show is, like I said, it's built around the NFL. But I took a deep dive, did some research. I did some research, and I just want now a lot of the things I remember from following the teams as to some of the shenanigans or things that the owners got into. That, but it always falls back to me is that how much power does the commissioner have? Does he have the power to get rid of a owner? I know he can find owners. We all know that. But at the end of the day, the commissioner works for the owners. The commissioner worked for the owners. I got someone trying to call in. I got to give him some direction. Give me 1 second. Let's get him straight. That's our special guest today, and I want to make sure that we can get him in. Let's see. Bear with me 1 second, folks. Let's see here. We'll get him straight here. hopefully we can get our special guest to call in. I think he's trying to call on another line, and that way, if you do that, we can get him in. And it'll be all good. But as I was saying, one thing what came up was the fact that the commissioner had the chance to speak before Congress. And you guys know, I always say that I don't get into politics. I try to separate this show altogether from politics. Do not touch it at all. But when it can, and I don't think this was more political than it was the fact that because Congress does have oversight. And so there was a meeting earlier where the commissioner, Roger Goodell, and for those who don't like the commissioner, don't like the commissioner, we had to just So what I'm going to do is I'm going to. I see my caller is trying to call me and he's struggling a little bit, so I am going to call him. Let's see, can we make this work? All right. Here. All right. Let's see. We're gonna switch out here, and I am going to call my guest because he is struggling, and we all don't need to be struggling. So I'm gonna switch my toys here. Then I'm gonna give him a call and see if we can make this work. All right, here we go. Okay, give me 1 second. All right, I'm gonna call my caller.
Hello.
Hey, caller, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, all right. Hey, at the end of the day, we got you. All right, folks. As I was saying, today's show is gonna be a little bit different because we're going to do a deep dive into follow up of a previous show, which was called "Owners Behaving Badly." And so I have on the line one of my regulars. The reason I call him a regular, he follows the show. He's a big history buff, former coach, played football for Grambling State University. Uh, Very knowledgeable, and he and I love to have our spirited debates every once in a while online. But today we're going to talk about what I call owners behaving badly. So before anyway, let me introduce my guest. My special guest is going to be Mr. Ricardo Malbrew. In fact, let's give him a. Hey, don't let that go to your head, brother. All right, now I'm gonna give the fans a little run through and recap of what I know about owners behaving badly, and then I'm gonna call in brother Malbrew, and then he's gonna take it from there and share his knowledge. But I remember these are a list of things. Like I said, I looked, I did some research, and I needed to know at the end of the day, the goal is always to protect the shield. So let's start off with the Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross. Now, for those who don't know brother Ross, one coach should come to mind, and you should know who this guy is. Coach Brian Flores. Now, remember, Ross was the owner, and he's still the owner. The scandal that involved the Dolphins owner had to do with he wanted the coach to tank the season. In other words, lose on purpose. How do you tell grown men who go out there and put it on the line every day, who train, who go through all season, who go through all these things, how do you tell grown men, hey, I need y'all to not play as hard as you can. Coach, I need you to lose some games. They're not, athletes are not wired that way. We're not wired to lose. We are not wired to lose at all because you're talking about alpha male. Then you have the alpha of the alpha male. So, and of course, that result in a lawsuit that was filed against that owner. Then we have We all know about Robert Kraft and the prostitution ring that he was involved in. Somehow that, I don't know how that ended up, but I just know at the end of the day, you still have owners behaving badly. Now, let's get into the time machine. Those who remember the owner of the 49ers, Ed DeBartolo. Now, I used to love Brother Ed. When the 49ers were doing their thing, he was one of the what I would call the most joyful owners you can see. And you knew that his ownership and his relationship with the players was legit. There was no faking it for the cameras, But he got caught up in the scandal, and I'm gonna when I do bring in uh, brother Malbrew Ricardo. I'm going to ask him because this happened in his neck of the woods involving his state of Louisiana, and I know he knows who Senator Governor Edwards was when that involved. In fact, Eddie ended up going to. I think he did a little time behind. I know it was a felony where he wanted to have a part in the gambling that was taking place in Louisiana. So he paid the former governor, I believe, almost $500,000 for to get licensing and that. So that in itself was crazy. And then I ran up on a story involving the Rams owner, Stan Croce. Now, he bought land. This was in Wichita County, and that's in the state of Texas. So he bought over 500,000 acres. Now, this purchase resulted in, and I won't say, well, was it owner acting badly, but when he bought the land, there were farmers who that was the only thing they knew. They farmed that land, and that was all they had. So one gentleman, I think his name was Rich Ellis. Basically, when the land was purchased, um, the Rams owner basically told those guys, "Hey, you're gonna get evicted. That's it. You're out." So for some of those guys and families who didn't have nothing else to do or no place to go, that was like a reality check. And I always say in the counseling world, nothing is real until reality set in. So the bottom line is that Richie Ellis committed suicide behind that. So um, those are examples of owners behaving badly. But my question today is, how much power do the commissioner have in terms of dealing with owners? What say ye, brother Melbrew? Carter, you there?
Roger Goodell has no power.
That's Ricardo Melbrew I know and love. Talk to
He
me.
has he has absolutely no power because it is the owners that pay his salary. It is the owners that pay his salary. And so what you don't want to do as the face of the shield is to alienate those who pay your salary. There are also the owners who renew his contract. And so when you have someone that controls your future in and around the league, right? The business of the league, um, the discipline of the league, you have to consider, right? Any decision or anything that you say. Um, if not, checking with them first. If not, checking with the most respected owner of all the owners. You
And
have to get
that
his
and
thoughts,
and that
right?
is
So, someone like Jerry Jones,
Jure. Oh, Jure.
who is the most respected owner out of all the owners, because he's probably one of the wealthiest of all the owners, they look to him to guide the league, not necessarily Goodell. Okay, Jerry, what do you think? Right? Um, and I'm sure even before he had this meeting with Congress, there was the phone call with Jerry Jones. I'm sure when it dealt with the Redskins and Dan Snyder, I'm sure there was a conversation with Jerry Jones. Roger
Rico-
Goodell knows what he's doing. You don't get paid $200 million a year for being an idiot.
Ricardo, let me stop you right there because I want to segue into something, and you touched on it. Now, let me read this. Congress accusations against my commanders. And this was an article I pulled up. It says in a 20-page letter, the Federal Trade Commission, Congress said that the commanders were running a year-long operation masking revenue that gave them a higher profit than the rest of the owners. So there was a an individual whose name was Jason Friedman. He was a whistleblower, and people don't understand whistleblowers is at the end of the day, um, those who blow whistles on wrongdoing. A lot of times they get swept out in the change. But Jason Friedman, he met with the congressional committee regarding a separate investigation on the culture of the Washington Redskins slash football team slash Commanders. So here's where I come down. Now, I remember a couple of weeks ago I did a show. We talked about should running backs be paid off the same different pay scale, and I said when it came to CTE, I wasn't qualified to talk about CTE because that was not in my wheelhouse. Now, as far as what the culture and the climate of my beloved Redskins and dealing with what the initial charges was, i.e., a very hostile, bad work environment, or i.e., the culture. Now, the bottom line, and here's a summation of what my understanding took place. That there were sexual harassment going on. There were it was just a bad culture. But Daniel Snyder decided that he would conduct his own investigation. I think they had an investigation going alongside the NFL investigation because at the end of the day, the NFL want to make sure that it take allegations filed by females very serious because the old because they're trying to get away from that old mindset. This is the boys club. We do what we do. So the NFL is always about image because you mentioned it. Protecting the shield. And so my understanding was while the NFL was conducting an investigation into the climate, the owner Danny Snyder, he had a separate investigation going on to where he was intimidating the witnesses, trying to basically control the outcome, paying off people before they could talk to the commissioner. Now, at the end of the day, like you said, who has more power? Is it the commissioner or is it the owners? And we know. So what say
It's
you?
the owners. It's the owners, and getting to what you alluded to about Mr. Friedman. Mr. Friedman had been with the Washington Redskins for a little over 20 years. Okay, he's the one that would have known about the Redskins shaving off the top, for lack of a better term.
True.
He even wrote to the FTC suggesting that the Redskins had two books, not one but two, right? One they kept and one they operated off of, right? And they would give the NFL, right, what they wanted, one of the two books, but not the one that is holding all the cash, right?
And the owner had access to the second book.
Yes. Well, of course, he's the owner.
Yes.
Why wouldn't he? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but the Commanders turned around and refuted his claim by saying that he had sexual relations with a subordinate, and said based off of that he was incredible.
Wow. But as I was saying, man, that's my team. I will still roll with them. Doesn't mean now, like I said, you can love your team. You don't have to love the leadership.
Now, the question that you should be asking is, can the FTC and its antitrust laws, the federal government antitrust laws, force the NFL to remove Daniel Snyder as owner. In other words, can we put sanctions on you until you remove him as the owner? You cannot operate.
Hold that thought, because the commissioner, the commissioner now, Danny was asked to come and speak before Congress, because Congress, because they have an oversight committee, and he was asked, "Hey, come here and talk to us." And, yeah, nah, I'm busy. Nah, I'm not coming. But the commissioner did go in, and one of the questions that he was asked, based on, the climate, because what Congress wants, and I think fans want, is that, okay, NFL, you really really punish the athletes, okay? We punish the athletes,
right?
But are we addressing the the missteps of the owners in the same fashion as we are addressing that involving the athletes? For example,
well, you got to understand. First of all, you got to understand the athletes, they get punished twice. They don't get punished once. People have to understand this. They get punished twice. They get punished by their team, right?
True.
Hence the games, suspension, right? And then they get punished by the league, because not only did you offend the team, you offended the shield.
Right.
So they have to protect both the team and the shield. And so if you have a misstep, and let's just take my favorite player, Alvin Kamara.
Okay, because we were going to talk about that.
All right. So let's take Alvin Kamara. His next court date is August 1st. Okay. So
now, for those who are just listening in, can you kind of
well, Alvin Kamara was accused
there we go.
and caught on camera for stopping a patron at this hotel during the last year's All-Star Pro Bowl, and they caught him on camera. This, that, and the third, and he was charged with aggravated assault and so forth and so on. So as of now, he has a court date of August 1st. He was arraigned and all that right after, I think the day after he was arraigned, had a not guilty plea. And here we go. Now we have a court date. Okay, so August 1st is the court date. He gets to go through training camp, OTAs, all those things. But he may not be there for the first game against the Falcons. Okay, unless he appeals, and of course, when it comes to appeals, we can go through that. That means he gets to play, and until the case is actually not the case, but in case until the NFL adjudicates his punishment. Because you got to go through the NFL Players Union. I mean, you have to adjudicate all that stuff with them to make sure that you're taking the due process and correct steps in order to suspend him. All right. With that being said, his August 1st court date is coming up slowly, and he suspects that he may get anywhere between 4 to 6 games.
Right.
Hell, if it's really bad, it could get between 6 to 8 games
right.
after the season. All right. So, with that being stated, Alvin Kamara had this incident last year. Not only did he embarrass the New Orleans Saints, right? He embarrassed the Shield, because what he did, or allegedly did, let's just say, right? Nobody cares that he embarrassed the Saints. Right?
Not at all. Don't give a fat rat's butt about the Saints.
Right. So, but the Saints do, okay? The Saints, okay? If you're in New Orleans, they do, okay? But it's all about that doggone Shield, right? And you embarrassed us, not only as the league, right? But you embarrassed Roger Goodell, you embarrassed all the owners, you embarrassed, right? Because you're supposed to be a role model, right? All the kids look up to you, all these things come back into play, okay? We have to understand that they get punished twice. And the second punishment is the most, it hurts the most, because the NFL gets to fine you. The Saints get to fine you. And not only are they taking your game checks, right? The league gets to add on to that fine. And there's no, unless you appeal, right? You ain't getting away from that. So not only are they hurting your career by subtracting games, they're also hurting your pocketbook.
Wow.
Now, what they can't do, and you got to understand, The athletes do not pay the commissioner. The athletes do not pay the commissioner. The owners do. This is why it's easier to punish the players as opposed to the owners, because the owners dictate, all 32 owners dictate who's going to run their league and who's going to be in their league and who's going to work in their league. They dictate all of that. They're billionaires. There's not one owner less than $1 billion. So yeah, this is the conundrum in which a lot of fans question.
Hey, let's take a break so we can do a reset the huddle. And you're listening to Sports Therapy with FH Jr. with special guest Ricardo Malbrew. So we're gonna be back in 60 seconds or less. This is Sports Therapy. All right, we're back. Now, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Sports Therapy with FH Jr., where today's topic is owners behaving badly, part 2. Now, we have a special guest, Ricardo Malbrew, and he is going to be kicking some knowledge, and he has been kicking knowledge, and he's going to continue. Now, we're going to pick up where we left off, where we were talking about how much power do the owners have in terms of their relationship to the commissioner, Roger Goodell. Ricardo, it's all yours.
Well, Daniel Snyder has found himself in a conundrum. Okay, and he was asked to come before Congress to testify on the allegations the Washington Redskins are facing and the investigation the Washington Commanders are facing, and he basically outright said no. Now, the question is, where does he get this attitude? Because here's how Congress looks at it. If the commissioner came before us, why haven't you? You're just the owner.
Ricardo, let me jump in because I want to make a point here real quick, and then I'm gonna come back to you. Now, Congress is looking into what's going on with the Commanders. Now, let me ask you this question. Do you really think, with all the things that Congress got that they should be doing, do you really think Congress give a damn about what is going on in terms of the NFL? Would they have taken the steps by themselves to say, hey, this is so egregious and crazy. We need to have oversight. We need to look into this. I'm going somewhere with this because
I know where you're going.
House Oversight and Reform Committee, it was chaired by a female, Carolyn Maloney.
Yes.
She said the NFL's unwillingness to release the full finding of an internal investigation into the workplace. So in other words, it's not like Congress would have just said, "Hey, let's look into the Commanders and see what they're doing." This is being pushed, and it should be, by some females who felt like, not just females, but fans and saying, "Okay, wait a minute, you guys won't release the full report," and then there's some who say, "Wait a minute, you guys." When I say you guys, I'm saying when it came to John Gruden, they threw the book. You know what I'm saying? They put him on that barbecue grill, man, and sauteed him. And so and they're saying, wait a minute, you guys didn't have a problem for turning over all these things, indicting Gruden bad behavior, but in terms of this, right? And see what, Yeah, and because the Commanders had a they when they looked into this, keep in mind they had their own investigation going on alongside the NFL, and so when they got the findings were done by an attorney. I think her last name was Wilkinson, and basically they implemented what she said that they needed to in order to change the climate. But you trust me, that investigation was probably being led by not the commissioner, but it was being led by the owner. Because at the end of the day, who's gonna pay this law firm for coming in and conducting this investigation? You know what I'm saying? So
There's too many contradictions going on.
yes.
Because we can go after John Gruden for racist emails, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the crazy thing is that he was emailing owners. It's not that he was
I
emailing
know.
coaches. He was emailing, right?
Yep.
So, but the thing is that we can punish him, but we can't touch the owner, right? And I truly believe, and like I keep trying to tell you, this goes back to Roger Goodell likes or doesn't like certain coaches. And we can go back to this Sean Payton incident. We can go back to John Gruden. And John Gruden and Sean Payton are very, very close. Right? So if I don't like one, I probably don't dislike it, but I don't really care for it. Right?
Okay.
And so the John Gruden and Sean Payton are very, very close, in close proximity. Right? Okay. I can make it hell for one, and I can try to get rid of the other, right? And you got to understand, John Gruden came in as the head coach of the Los Angeles Raiders with $100 million contract.
Right.
That's unheard of, right? In the coaching circle, especially in the professional coaching. $100 million,
right?
$1 million a year for 10 years, right? So how do I touch John Gruden without touching Mark Davis?
True.
Right, and remember now. Any organization, any private organization, any public organization has access to your emails. So, especially if you sent it under the shield, right? And remember,
well, if you're using your company electronic device, at the end of the day,
they get access.
Yes.
To it, right. Okay. So, this is all about getting at certain people without touching the owners. No different than getting to Jack Del Rio, right? How can I get to Jack Del Rio without touching Dan Snyder, right? You think Dan Snyder didn't know about Jack Del Rio's comment? You think the coaches didn't know? The other coaches didn't know? You think the players didn't? They all knew, right? It's not like he said it in private. He said it in public, right? And he probably said even worse than that in emails. He probably said worse than that, right? In meetings, he probably said worse than that, right? And it's all about not touching the owners.
Well, hey, let me bring you back to the athletes' involvement, because like you said, when it comes to the athletes, Roger Goodell can lay the heavy hand,
and coaches, not just
athletes. Yeah, and coaches. Because reason I'm going somewhere, because I'm thinking about Kevin Ridley. Okay, mm-hmm. You know Kevin Ridley, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know what his fall from grace was.
Mm-hmm.
He was gambling.
Right.
Okay, now, based on his gambling, do you know how long he got suspended?
What was it? A couple of weeks? What was it?
No, I think he's out for almost a year.
By Roger Goodell?
Yes. Mm. Yes. So now you have to ask yourself, come on now. Mm-hmm. Look how long.
But is Calvin Ridley an owner?
No, that's my point though. I do know at the end of the day, because this question was asked to Roger Goodell by one of the members of Congress, and they asked, with all the things that's going on with the Redskins / Commanders / football team, as far as what with the money shaving, the conducting a
internal investigation.
yeah, with all that going on, basically he asked owners, hey. He asked, Roger Goodell was asked, do you have the power to fire the owner? And he said, no.
No, I can't touch you. Because The reason why I can't touch him is because he pays
My salary.
right. He pays my salary. That $200 million I get, right?
that that
That
that
comes from him.
that is the equivalent of a superintendent of a school
Correct.
firing a board member.
Correct.
He don't have that power.
Well, the board members are elected. So
Well, but at the end of the day, he still
still
can't
have
go
the
in and
power.
have a board member removed or anything like that.
Correct. Now he can lobby against them in the next election. He can try to find somebody to primary them.
You know,
But
but
he
I'm
can't.
saying
Yeah.
as the superintendent, you can't even be doing that.
Right. I mean, you can't be caught doing
Yeah,
that.
what I'm saying,
You can't do it.
you know
You can't
what I'm
caught doing
saying.
it. Right.
So getting back to, yeah, I mean, now the owners, the players, coaches, everybody pretty much agree to follow the conduct code of conduct for all things NFL related.
Correct.
It's like,
Correct.
okay, but you can't just because huh?
But Maloney is going to subpoena Daniel Snyder. And now here's the thing. Here's the thing about Daniel Snyder. Let me tie all this up. The reason why Daniel
Hey, careful,
Snyder,
man. That's my team.
okay, Daniel Snyder, okay, they're going to subpoena him. Okay, he might even get it Monday. Right?
Yes.
So they're going to subpoena Daniel Snyder. She's already put this in the works. It's already been written by the Washington Post. And so he'll get it. Okay. Once he gets it, then if he ignores the subpoena, right? Then they're going to the committee. They're going to make a recommendation to the Justice Department. Okay, for prosecution. Okay. So he's getting this because he's seeing the whole, and the Washington Commanders are tied to January 6th. I don't know how they are. I don't know the attitude of the Commanders. And I'm talking about Daniel Snyder. It's tied to the attitudes of January 6th, right? You want me to come in? No, I'm not coming in. Well, he sees Trump's former administration.
Okay, all right.
You know,
Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back.
I'm saying to you that he's seeing the attitudes of those tied to Trump.
Okay, I got you.
And so because this is now here is because Roger Goodell showed up.
Right.
Daniel Snyder did not.
Okay.
Okay. And so now they have to subpoena him, force him to show up.
Okay.
And now when he gets there, if he gets there, the question remains: will he answer their questions?
Right. Hey, let me give a few more examples of other owners behaving badly in the past, and that way we can kind of, I don't know. Do you remember when the Panthers owner Jerry Richardson, he was involved in this crazy sexual misconduct? Now, of course, that led to him having to sell the team. He sold the team to Dan Typer for 2 point. Now you remember that whole crazy.
I don't know if he was made to do that.
But at the end of the
pressure,
right.
But it didn't come from Goodell.
No, that's what I'm saying. Goodell has no pressure. He has no power. No, he doesn't have any power. And then we looked at now. I don't know. Do you remember in 2014 when Jerry Jones was sued for sexual assault?
Yes.
And of course, Jerry's the most powerful. Well, let's say it. Jerry's the most powerful owner.
Yes.
Jerry. I think whoever may be up to par with Jerry, maybe the owner of the Patriots, and that's not a whole lot of people. Now, of course, So as we looked at, as I go further down the line, when owners behaving badly, we got to take a look at. Okay, look at Jerry. What came out this year? Jerry, he has a fun baby. And but at the end of the day, that you talk about this is tarnishing the shield.
But Jerry is the shield.
But I'm still saying it's tarnishing the shield. But at the end of the day, the commissioner has no power to fire a owner.
I'm sure he had a phone call with the commissioner.
Oh yeah.
Not necessarily about that, but about his behavior and what's in the news. But at the end of the day, Jerry is the shield.
Yeah.
Right. And so I can tarnish. It's like this. I can don't do what I do. Do what I tell you to do.
Well, that's where I was going to go next with that, because that's that old saying that we grew up, which is you do what I say.
Right.
not as I do.
Correct.
But at the end of the day, now what I heard now, this is only through rumor and things that I read, that when Daniel Snyder was asked to come in, he basically went, he was on his yacht having a good time and basically saying, hey, I don't have time to come in because I'm busy conducting football operations business. So how do you give the Heisman to Congress? You know, he threw up his
Very
hand.
simply, because I see other people doing it, right? I see,
Yes,
like I said, I go back to the Trump administration. I see them doing it, right? So hell, I'm richer than all of them. So guess what? I'm gonna do it to you too, right?
I'm gonna give you the Heisman.
So exactly, right? And that's to say, and again, there was a conversation with Jerry Jones.
Yeah,
There was a conversation with Jerry Jones. Hey, Jerry, what do you think? Should I go and answer their questions? Right? So owners talk to owners. I don't understand how people don't understand this. Yeah, there may be rivalry on the field, but the owners don't care
oh
nothing about
yeah, at
that.
the end of the
They are
day,
friends in their
the
circle.
uh,
Okay.
at,
So there was a conversation with Jerry Jones about what he should do.
at the end of the day, the owners care mostly about revenue.
Yes.
You know, let's call a spade a spade. It's about
Yes.
revenue.
It's about the bottom line.
It's the
And
bottom line.
and Jerry's probably advice to him was, well, let them subpoena you.
Yeah,
You ain't got to go. You know what I'm saying? Like you know, you go if you want to, but you ain't got to.
but
Now, if
I
they
do.
subpoena you, then I would consider it. But Daniel Snyder is giving them the Heisman because he's probably advised to.
Well, true, and also you know he at the end of the day he's got a tribe of attorneys that's giving him more
Sure,
legal advice
but
and
at the
whatever.
end of the day, I got to go visit the Godfather.
But I guarantee you that they all met and they were all on the same team. You can't tell me that even though we're just giving our opinion, you can't tell me that Roger Goodell did not know that
Sure, he knew.
that Danny wasn't gonna show up.
Sure, he knew.
Yes,
That's why he went.
thank you. Somebody had to go to be the face of the league.
That's why he went. And Daniel Snyder told him, this is why we pay you your salary.
Yes.
Okay, to take the brunt or to take the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
This is your job.
Well,
And
truth be
Goodell
told,
was his job.
that is his job.
That's your job. Is to show up. My job ain't to show up. I'm the owner.
Yeah.
Or I'm one of 32 owners.
And,
Right?
and my job as the owner is to duck, dodge,
Yes,
delay,
dodge and avoid. That's right.
throw up barriers, and to where
Right.
I have to come in.
That's right. Per the Godfather.
Yeah. Now I can't say that came from Jerry, but I just know that
Listen, Jerry's not going to tell you directly, right? Jerry going to tell you a story.
yeah, but
And in the story, he telling you what to
yeah,
do.
but those billionaires didn't get to be billionaires overnight. They got to be billionaires from knowing how to maneuver, knowing how to orchestrate, knowing how to maneuver, da 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 da. Now
Right.
they may run in the same crowd with people who have the same mindset, who because at the end of the day, if you look into history, most billionaires got where they got from being robber barons.
Okay, yes, but they also have a thing called the owners meeting.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, there's a reason for the owners meeting. That reason is to train you how to be an owner. Okay, it's training going on. In other words, the lawyers are training them, right? the league executives are training them, right? Like they're being, it's training for owners. It's just not a meeting for them to sit around and discuss, whatever. They're being trained on certain situations that the league faces, and they're being educated.
Now
And
let me throw this out here to you, and I want you to think about this. Could the owners be that hidden hand behind Snyder being called in to make the case for the owners getting together and pushing him out?
depends on
It goes
how.
it go going back to protecting the shield.
Yes, but again, this is, okay. This goes back because, okay, now how many owners have been dismissed from their teams in the past 25 years?
How many owners been stealing money from the other owners?
Oh, okay, that's true. That's true. Okay, that's true.
That's where I'm
That's
going with
fair.
it
Okay,
there,
that's fair.
bruh.
That's fair. Now, was Jerry happy about the fact that Daniel Snyder is skimming money off the top? That he's not paying as much as the Dallas Cowboys? I'm sure that didn't please him, right? And so, this is, and again, this may be the linchpin to get him out, because
And that's where I'm going with that.
if
Is that
Jerry Jones is pissed at you because you're not paying your fair share like all the other owners are,
well, it goes
right?
it goes
Do
back
you have his
to
do you have his backing? Is he backing you?
but it
Right?
goes back to is there honor among thieves? If I'm a
There
thief
should
and you're a
be.
thief, it should be. But if it's not, then we got to push you out. Now you got power, but we have to
But
tiptoe
depends on our
around how
relationship.
we push you out.
Depends on our relationship.
But money is money. Now,
Sure.
because I'm at a point now, I don't give a you know what about my relationship with anybody right now. But if you come for my money, you coming for my livelihood. Hey, dude, I'm at a point in life now. Hell, you can probably come and take my woman. I won't be as upset. But unless you come and take
Once
my
you
money,
take my money,
we
that's it.
fighting in the street.
That's right. And so now this is complicated because let me compare this to Ted Cruz in the U.S. Senate. Ted Cruz is the most hated senator in the U.S. Senate. There's only 100 of them. Okay, so if Daniel Snyder has that type of heat amongst the owners, like Ted Cruz has among the senators, I can guarantee you he would not be the owner for very long.
Oh, I agree.
Now the one thing that the 99 senators can't do to Ted Cruz is now they can impeach him. They can call for his impeachment, but they can't do since he's elected. There's
Right.
very little they can do. But when it comes to Daniel Snyder and skimming off the top and how the other 32 owners feel about that, I'm sure they're not happy. Okay.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. But I just know that once you let a weasel in the hen house,
Yeah,
as,
yeah, yeah.
as they say down south, once you let a weasel in the hen house, he's gonna kill a whole lot of chickens before we find him and get that weasel out. At the end of the day, he's a weasel, man. He can't trust him. He has you can't trust. I love my team, and I'll go down the drain with my Commanders slash football team slash Redskin. But at the end of the day, when it
Okay,
comes to
okay.
my money,
Now look at this. Now you got to look at this. All right, so you have 31 owners. Actually, you have 32, but you have 31 owners
mm-hmm.
who we can assume have not skimmed off the top of their ticket sales, or merchandising or what have you, and they're paying their fair share. The question remains: do you have some type of um, battle, right, between those owners of what do we give him another chance, right, to correct his behavior, or do we boot him out, right? And where does Robert Kraft stand on that, and where does Jerry Jones stand on that, right? And so because let's just admit that they are the two most powerful owners. Okay, so where are they on that, right? That seems to be the lingering question. Now, Goodell is not going to stick his foot in that fire. Okay, he's going to let the owners battle that out. That's the owners' issue, right? Um,
But
because
Ricardo,
the other owners,
you brought up something very interesting when you said let's assume that all the owners are paying their fair share.
right?
I don't know. I think Daniel Snyder was the only one stupid enough to have a to get caught doing those things. Because
Well, if you haven't gotten caught, then you're paying your fair share.
okay,
All
touche.
right. So the assumption is, um, we're all paying our fair share. Now, what if the assumption isn't, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I'm another one that's not paying their fair share, right, and I'm supporting Daniel Snyder, now I'm being questioned. Are you really paying your fair share?
Mm.
It's very difficult for Daniel Snyder to get all 31 owners on his side about this,
Right. Now,
because anybody that supports him is going to be assumed that they're not paying their fair share.
right. Now, see, one of the reasons when Roger Goodell went and spoke before Congress, like you said, he is the face of the NFL. His job is to go in and put the fire out. At the end of the day, you say the product. So what he talked about and he tried to get across to Congress, who had oversight, which is we conducted this investigation. The NFL conducted this investigation. The NFL looked into the complaints of the females, the climate, and we put in measures that we think would be beneficial in terms of what we felt the Commanders needed to do to correct that culture.
Okay,
I.e.,
so but if you did that, why is the NFL still investigating?
well, because there are those who felt that the Commanders did not do more and the punishment didn't fit the crime in terms of what should have happened, and so they felt like the majority of the things was swept under the rug, basically.
But
And
who told the NFL to investigate Daniel Snyder?
now, rumor has it, rumor has it that came from former coach of the Raiders,
John Gruden?
John Gruden.
Well, his email was linked
Right.
to the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Now, do you know who was the GM for the Commanders during all that time?
His name escapes me.
Mm-hmm. And because there were text messages between him and John Gruden, and that's where all this came. Because in other words, they had all the text messages. Roger Goodell and the group, they had all the text messages, but they only decided that they would release John Gruden's text messages. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They threw him. They threw his ass out there. Let me hit my cussing bell. They threw his ass out there and said, "Hey, you're gonna be a sacrificial lamb," and that's where I believe this came from, because Gruden is saying, "Wait a minute, you need to turn over that entire investigation to either Congress oversight or somebody, so you can see that it was more than me acting out in this thing." And
Bruce Allen.
yes, Bruce Allen. So he's like, "No, it's more than me was acting out." So
yeah, that's true.
The commissioner refused to turn over the report. And that's where they said, okay, the only way he's going to get it now is I have to go over to the commissioner and get Congress to make him give that report up and make that report
but this
public.
Is what Roger Goodell is not telling you. Okay. Roger Goodell really ain't investigating the Redskins.
No.
Okay.
No, I know he's not. And let me say this: he probably never had a side. He never had a. In other words, he allowed the Commanders to investigate themselves, and whatever they came up with, we will adapt it.
Yes. Now let's go back to Sean Payton. Okay. Sean Payton, first of all, he is the only coach besides Tom Landry. Sean Payton. He's the only head NFL football coach. Not even Bill Parcells has gotten to this level. And he's a great coach. Not even Bill Belichick has really gotten to this level. And he's a great coach. Sean Payton, right, is a made man. Sean Payton is a made man. Okay? And this is why, now I'm gonna tell you, Bill Belichick got fairly close because the Patriots used to be a very docile team. And whenever you win multiple Super Bowls with a docile team like the Patriots, right, you become a made man. Okay. But when you win a Super Bowl with the New Orleans Saints, who's probably had less than 10 winning seasons in the history of their existence, you become a made man.
All right, Ricardo, that's the show. Let's wrap it and cap it right there.
Okay, but here's the thing. I gotta get this out.
You can get it out, but I can guarantee you're going to hear the sound of this music.
We get it out.
Keep pushing.
John Gruden did not like that.
I'm sure he didn't.
That Sean Payton was suspended for an entire year.
To all our guests, This has been another episode of Sports Therapy with our FH Jr. Like the first of all, thank my special guest, Ricardo Melbrew. And today's show was Owners Behaving Badly, Part 2. Now, to all the Golden Lions, stay golden.